Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. President Trump blasted the courts for getting in the way, he said, of his administration's deportation agenda. We have the latest on this ongoing legal saga. Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch and Chief Justice John Roberts sided with left-leaning judges in an immigration appeals case, a narrow ruling that could provide a glimpse into the court's future thinking with a barrage of legal cases centered on immigration. Also, a jury finds the New York Times did not libel former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. We have what appears to be the end of this year's long legal battle. And what's next for South Carolina Treasurer Curtis Loftis? We have an update after the state Senate voted 33-8 to remove him from office.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Last night from the White House, President Donald Trump said what every common-sense American has been thinking for about 4 years now. He talked about what the elites don't want to hear, what the activist judges pretend not to see, and what the open borders crowd absolutely hates. And that's this, and this is a direct quote. We're deporting killers, murderers, and drug dealers, and the courts are trying to stop us. Now, I ask you, why on earth, and I've asked this question many times, so it's kind of rhetorical, why on earth would anyone want to block that? Who in their right mind thinks it's a bad thing to deport violent criminals? Well, I'll tell you who. These left-wing judges, evidently. These activist courts. The same media hacks who scream racism anytime we try to protect our borders. President Trump said it loud and clear, though. Under his leadership, we have virtually nobody coming in illegally now. The border is virtually closed. Think about that. After years of politicians promising to fix immigration, we've got someone who actually has done it, and in just, 2 months' time? And what do the courts do in return? Try to tie his hands behind his back, and it is just outrageous. It is maddening what they're doing. Just yesterday, a Colorado judge saying that in Colorado, illegals have to be given a 60-day notice, and they have to be told in a language they can understand that they have the right to legal counsel. Now, the president said the obvious. We will never get the millions of people that Joe Biden let into our country if we have to have a trial for each of them.
Question, because honestly, it's one of the great successes. We have virtually nobody coming in illegally. We do have people coming in legally because we want people to come in, but we have nobody coming in through the border virtually. We were having hundreds of thousands of people a month come in under Biden. And they came in from prisons, they came in from mental institutions, they came in from gangs in Venezuela and other countries all over the world, not just South America. They were emptying their prisons into the United States. Venezuela emptied its prisons out, but many countries emptied their prisons into the Congo, as an example, in Africa, emptied their prisons into the United States. And we're getting them out, and I hope we get cooperation from the courts because, we have thousands of people that are ready to go out, and you can't have a trial for all of these people. It wasn't meant, the system wasn't meant. And we don't think there's anything that says that, look, we are getting some very bad people, killers, murderers, drug dealers, really bad people, the mentally ill, the mentally insane. They emptied out insane asylums into our country. We're getting them out. And a judge can't say, no, you have to have a trial. The trial's going to take 2 years. And no, we're going to have a very dangerous country if we're not allowed to do what we're entitled to do. And I won an election based on the fact that we get them out, and we've done an amazing job. Look, we've stopped. Everybody admits, even the radical left, we have got the strongest border we've ever had.
And yes, Mr. President, we do have the strongest border because of you. Now, he's not talking about dreamers. He's not talking about your grandmother overstaying a visa. He's talking about literally killers. People who were let out of prisons in Venezuela, who hopped on a caravan and walked right into Joe Biden's America with arms wide open. We even handed them a check, a debit card, a phone, and a free airplane ticket to anywhere in the United States they wanted to go. President Trump called it what it is, a dumping ground. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's dumping ground. And by the way, this isn't speculation. This isn't some conservative talk show host, my hyperbole. President Trump laid it out. Countries like Venezuela, even the Congo in Africa, they were literally emptying their prisons into our country because they didn't want them. And they knew Joe Biden would take them. Biden just rolled out the welcome mat. Come on in, criminals of the world. America has no standards anymore. But now that Trump's back, and guess what? The cleanup has begun, but there's a problem. We have American judges who are acting un-American, as if they don't love our country. They don't want to protect our country. Now, you'd think with gang members like MS-13 roaming our streets, who, by the way, are now considered terrorists under Trump's new designation, you'd think the courts would want them gone. But nope. People like Judge Boasberg ruled that you can't deport these guys without a trial. A trial. Now tell me, how do you hold 100,000 trials, or maybe even 200 or 500,000 trials for foreign criminals? You can't. It's not possible. It's not just impractical. It's insane. And President Trump said it when he said it wasn't meant that way. We don't think there's anything that says that in the Constitution. He's exactly right. The system wasn't built for this, and these judges know it. I wonder if, and I love your feedback. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Text me. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. I wonder if this is just sort of the left strategy. Are they literally 2 months into Trump's term, or 3 months out? Let's see, January, February, March, April. I guess we're 3 months in now, or close to it. If they're literally going to try to run the clock out, if they think that they can put up enough roadblocks that it will take years to get to that point. Well, let me tell you, if you care about law and order, if you care about your family, your community, your town, your future, you got to stand behind President Trump on this. He's not rounding up innocent people. He's removing violent criminals. And if the courts won't let him do it, they're putting every single one of us at risk. They're putting our communities at risk. And by the way, and this was one of those press gaggles where Trump just let them all ask a question, basically. And that's what I love about the man. You know, Joe Biden never had an impromptu press conference. He knew exactly who was going to ask what questions. And he had answers in the teleprompter when he could read them, which wasn't often. Trump allowed a lot of different questions. He covered a lot of ground last night, one of which he addressed our trade war with China. And he talked about they used to pay 0. Now they're paying 145%. 145%. Trump's putting America first in the marketplace again. Yes, there's some temporary disruption. China's been taking advantage of us for years. They built the entire economy off our backs. And what do? We said, please, sir, may I have some more? But not anymore. Now Trump's making it clear. If you want to sell in America, you're going to pay the price. No more free ride, no more sweetheart deals. And what about the Fed? The press was hoping for drama. Is Trump going to fire Jerome Powell? Well, no. President Trump shut that down real quick. No drama, no chaos, just clarity. He said, I have no intention to fire him. Would I like to see him lower interest rates? Yes. But fire him? No. There's a lot going on, folks. A lot of news. This is one of those nights where you saw exactly why Donald Trump is so feared by the establishment. He says the quiet part out loud. He doesn't dance around it. He points to the elephant in the room, and you see that the problem is this, and I'm going to fix it. And he's very clear on how he's going to fix it. Are you ready for this? I dropped over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan, and I never took Ozempic or any of those other weight loss shots. Joey Hudson here. Before you take a drug, here's something you should know. Your body already makes GLP-1. That's the appetite-fighting hormone that these popular drugs copy. But the PhD weight loss program helps your body make it on its own. No side effects, no long-term risk, no major muscle loss, and no rebound weight gain when you stop. Just natural, lasting results. Before Big Pharma was dancing around in commercials, Dr. Ashley Lucas was doing the real work, helping people lose weight naturally and keeping it off, all without hunger or cravings. At PhD Weight Loss, you'll learn what to eat, when to eat, and how to flip your fat-burning switch without a shot. Don't trade your health for a quick fix. You can do this without Big Pharma. You can do this without drugs. Right now, the first 11 callers get 2 weeks free added to their program, 15% off when you fully commit to the program, a free supplemental bundle, and the PhD Get Results Guarantee. Call now, 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or online at myphdweightloss.com. The Supreme Court yesterday sided with, let me back up. Justice Neil Gorsuch and Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court yesterday sided with left-leaning justices in an immigration appeals case, a narrow ruling that could shape the court's future thinking amid a flurry of legal cases, all centered on immigration, people being here illegally. It was a 5-4 ruling. This case centered on the government's interpretation of a 60-day voluntary departure deadline, which authorities can use to allow certain immigrants deemed to be of good moral character to depart the U.S. on their own terms within a certain time frame. The Supreme Court ruled that, and again with the support of Roberts and Gorsuch, that any voluntary departure deadlines for immigrants under the 60-day departure time that fall on a weekend or on a legal holiday should be extended to the next business day. Writing for the majority, Gorsuch noted that this interpretation of the 60-day period aligns with longstanding administrative practices included in immigration law. He wrote, when Congress adopts a new law against the backdrop of a longstanding administrative construction, the court generally presumes the new provision works in harmony with what came before. Since at least the 1950s, immigration regulations have provided that when calculating deadlines, the term day carries its specialized meaning by excluding Sundays and legal holidays and later Saturdays if a deadline would otherwise fall on one of those days. Gorsuch added, noting that the 1996 Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act passed by Congress uses that same reading. The justice was joined in the majority by the Chief Justice and by Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Alana Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. This ruling overturns the decision of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals and the Board of Immigration Appeals, which had voted to reject that interpretation in this particular case. Monsalvo Valaquez, who is a 32-year-old Colorado resident targeted for removal in 2019. Now, the case in question centers largely on the technicalities of certain immigration proceedings. And, we have seen this happen a lot. A lot of the left-leaning judges, officials, a lot of these city officials in these sanctuary cities, they love the technicalities right now. They want to get down into the weeds, the details. This slim majority ruling could offer early signs, though, of the court's thinking as justices gear up for an onslaught of high-profile immigration cases. They're being deluged with these cases, because you got all these district judges handing down these injunctions and these opinions who, are trying to obstruct what Donald Trump was elected to do. And that is to return the illegals to the countries in which they came. This is going to be interesting to watch. Some of these cases are centered on due process protections for migrants. There's the nationwide injunction that blocked Trump's birthright citizenship ban from taking force. And the list goes on. Every step of the way, President Trump has been challenged by these activist judges. Now, Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett dissented, noting that, in their view, the court lacked jurisdiction to weigh in on the matter. While Thomas said that he would have remanded the case back to the lower circuit court to consider other outstanding issues, and Barrett took issue with the nature of the appeal filed by this person, Alito said in a separate dissenting opinion that he viewed the court's interpretation as a whole as is totally incorrect. In his view, the 60-day period imposed by the government is straightforward and should include weekends, he said. In his dissenting opinion, he said there will always be a sympathetic alien who is a day or two late. Unless the court is willing to extend the statutory deadline indefinitely, it would presumably be forced to say in such cases that a day too late is just too bad. For this reason, sympathy for petitioner cannot justify the court's decision, he said. And he's right. They're always going to beg for more time. There's always going to be some technicality. I mean, like right now, in this case with this Abrego Garcia down in El Salvador in the prison. He was going to end up deported anyway. But we've wasted all this time, all this media. You've got members of Democrat members of the Congress flying down there, making these appeals to the El Salvador government when the president of El Salvador very clearly stated in the Oval Office just, a week or two ago now, that Garcia would not be released. He would not be returned to the United States. But yet you've got these Democrat members of Congress flying down there, probably on our dime. I haven't confirmed that, but I would bet that we're paying for them to fly down there to make spectacles of themselves. But, they're suddenly all about due process. I mean, when were the Democrats so concerned about due process? For example, when President Trump was being hauled through court by Letitia James and some of the Democrat activists who wanted to put Donald Trump in jail. What about due process then? Didn't hear a whole lot about due process then, did you? But now suddenly you've got this illegal, allegedly MS-13 gang member who was going to be deported. He was sent a little too soon. The Trump administration admitted that, but they clarified he was going to be deported anyway. So what difference? They're suddenly all concerned about due process. This narrow ruling, back to the Supreme Court ruling, this narrow ruling, of course, comes just weeks before May 15th, when justices are set to hear oral arguments in a case challenging President Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship. This is going to be another big one, too. This case is considered one of the most highly anticipated ones to be reviewed by the high court since President Trump moved back into the Oval Office. And we will be watching that one closely. Changing subjects here. Have you heard the latest on Dr. Anthony Fauci and his finances? They've come under renewed scrutiny after newly obtained records revealed that his net worth nearly doubled during COVID-19, the pandemic. Listen to this now. His net worth rose from $7.6 million in 2019, just prior to the pandemic, to over $15 million by the end of 2023. Now, this is according to watchdog group Open the Books. The disclosures show that 2023 alone brought in more than $3.5 million, marking Fauci's most profitable year yet, despite his official retirement from government service in early January of that year. His retirement date was January 6, 2023. came slightly later than previously disclosed. Mr. Fauci had testified that he left at the end of 2022, but internal NIH correspondence shows the paperwork was processed in early January. So which was it? That doesn't matter that much. What is significant, though, is you had this federal employee make $3.5 million. How does he do that? I'd love to know his secret. Open the Book CEO John Hart criticized Fauci's financial gain, saying his assets soared during the worst of the draconian COVID lockdowns while families and small businesses struggled. The rest of the country was closed because of him. And he's making $3.5 million in that one time period. According to Open Books, the sources of his earnings are partially outlined in a 141 pages dissection of his financial records. Key income highlights a $5 million book deal with Penguin Random House for his memoir, On Call, A Doctor's Journey in Public Service. It was published in mid-2024. Six-figure payments for public speaking and appearances at conferences, like the National Association of Chain Drugstores, American Health Insurance Plans, and events with firms like World Quant. Who can... there's been all this discussion about Joe Biden not being able to get the $300,000 he wants for speeches. Wonder what Fauci was paid per speech. Columbia University's Calderon Prize included a $50,000 award. I don't know what Columbia University was patting him on the back for, but hey, he also got a $40,000 from the Linhard Prize from the National Academy of Medicine. Wow. How do you make $3.5 million when you've been a federal employee your entire career? Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. In a historic move, the South Carolina Senate voted 33-8 to oust State Treasurer Curtis Loftis, citing willful neglect of duty. And all this is related to the $1.8 billion accounting discrepancy that went unreported for years. The matter now heads to the State House of Representatives, where a 2/3 vote would be needed to officially remove Mr. Loftis from office. Now, this has created a lot of conversation around the state. The vote took place late last night, as the Senate had been in session for about 10 hours, with senators questioning Treasurer Loftis and his staff. At one point, Senator Tamika Devine from Richland asked Mr. Loftis why notification from the new Comptroller General's office, who had just replaced Comptroller General Rich Ekstrom, who had resigned because of some discrepancies, why the Treasurer's office did not notify the General Assembly that they had been told about an accounting error. Here's the exchange.
So did that not elevate a red flag to you that the Comptroller General was telling you and how he was reporting things in your office acknowledged that there was an issue? Did that not send a red flag that maybe there was something that you needed to make this General Assembly aware of? December 2023, the new Comptroller General writes this letter to you acknowledging issues with the 993 and tells you that you need to report it to this body, knowing that the old treasurer told you about accounting for this account. He resigned because of an accounting error, and now the new Comptroller General is telling you a problem with this account and you need to report it to the General Assembly. Why did you not say, I'm going to report it to the General Assembly, and as you mentioned to Senator from Charleston Tedder, you were still investigating, but why not let the General Assembly know and say, I am looking into this, but I feel like I need to make you aware because of everything that's gone on with accounting errors, the previous Comptroller General resigning, that same person telling you how to account for things. Did that not give you a red herring that something might be wrong? So in order to make sure that people knew that you were on top of your job, you at least let this body know that you were looking into it.
The General Assembly knew. They were copied on that letter. It had been common knowledge. There was nothing to report. And
how did you know that this General Assembly knew?
Because they had tasked me with, they in part had been, they knew. They knew since like June or something. Brian Gaines and one other staffer went over and told them. And I
don't want to run out of time, so let me jump to a couple more, Mr. Treasurer. And so, and
that's just a sample, again, of about 10 hours of questioning yesterday. This vote caps off a 3-year investigation into this long-standing financial reporting issue involving the Treasurer's Office, the Comptroller General's Office, and the State Auditor. As mentioned, the former Comptroller General, Richard Ekstrom, the former State Auditor, George Kennedy, both resigned after this scandal came to light. Treasurer Loftis has remained in office and recently announced that he plans to run for re-election. And he has gathered a lot of support around the state as a result of this Senate action. A lot of comments on social media have expressed their support for Treasurer Loftis, primarily from the standpoint that he is an elected position and that the people of the state do not believe he should be removed by the state legislature, that should be left up to the people, that if people want to vote for him, if people want to continue to support him, then that should be their option, but not be removed by the legislature. Now, back to the error. It originated during a conversion to a new accounting system, according to the Comptroller and Treasurer's Office. An independent forensic audit concluded that multiple agencies, including Loftis' office, knew the funds did not exist but failed to notify the legislature. Now, we've been talking about this $1.8 billion for several years now. I mean, it just sort of appeared, and at one point it seemed that this $1.8 billion was in a checking account somewhere and had been sitting there for years, and nobody knew what it was for. Despite Treasurer Loftis' defense and his claim that his office simply followed instructions from the Comptroller General, lawmakers expressed concern over his failure to communicate the problem and the resulting $3 million spent on auditing the issue, and no telling how much more money has been spent on legal fees. Critics, including lead investigator Senator Larry Groom and Stephen Goldfinch, accused the treasurer of attempting to cover up the mistake. During the 10-hour Senate hearing, Loftis took a more subdued tone, I guess you could say. I watched a good portion of it. Didn't watch the entire 10 hours, but watched a few hours of it on and off. He expressed regret over the politicization of the issue, but maintained that his actions have been honorable. His attorneys argued that the hearing lacked due process, including witness testimony and document production. They basically just allowed the treasurer and key staff and his counsel to be there. He was not able to present witnesses. Loftis, who originally said he wouldn't seek re-election in 2026, has now reversed course primarily over this. I spoke with the treasurer a couple weeks ago at the Spartanburg County Republican Convention, and he said that he had decided that he is going to let the people of South Carolina decide. They'll have the final answer. He's going to run again, and if the people choose him, great, but it'll be their choice. Despite this controversy, Loftis' legal team pointed to his widespread popularity in the state, and he is. He's a very popular guy. He's been a big supporter of President Donald Trump. So, what's next? Where do we go from here? The resolution now goes to the State House of Representatives, Of course, Republicans hold a supermajority in that chamber as well. House leadership will bring the issue to a vote. Maybe, maybe not. It remains unclear as to whether or not they're going to continue the process that the Senate started yesterday. Lawmakers in the House have reportedly discussed the matter internally, but no clear decision yet as to whether or not they will hold their own hearings. Now, if the House does vote to remove Curtis Loftis, it would mark one of the rare instances of a statewide official being forcibly removed from office by the General Assembly in our state's history. So it's going to be interesting to watch the next step. What do you think? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. I've heard from a lot of you that the treasurer, that this is a witch hunt, which he says it is, and that the treasurer should not be removed from office, that this is something that should be left up to you and me, to the voters. What do you think? Should the General Assembly take this action, or should we just wait till 2026 and take care of it at the ballot box? Again, your emails are welcome, joe@joeyhudson.com. You can text me as well. Just when I thought things were going a little too far, even for the left, we hear stories like this. A state employee in Minnesota allegedly caught on video vandalizing a half dozen Teslas, causing more than $20,000 in damage, will not face criminal charges. It has sparked outrage from local law enforcement and crime victims alike. So here's the story. This is what happened. According to Minneapolis police, 33-year-old Dylan Brian Adams, he's a state employee at the Minnesota Department of Human Services, was seen keying Teslas and scraping paint off the vehicles while walking his dog around Minneapolis. Which, by the way, I'm headed to Minneapolis next week with my buddy Mike Gallagher. We'll be doing Mike's show from the My Pillow warehouse there. Surveillance footage, though, I digress. Surveillance footage reportedly shows Adams in the act, and officers describe the level of damage in each incident as felony level. Very serious. Despite this evidence, Hennepin County District Attorney Mary Moriarty has declined to press charges. I wonder how she'd feel if it was her vehicle that had been keyed or damaged. Instead, her office announced that it's going to pursue a diversion program that's aimed at allowing Adams to avoid a criminal record so he can keep his job and pay restitution. Now, I don't know. Maybe this makes sense. I don't know, because if he's in jail, he won't be able to work, won't have the money. Supposedly, maybe he's wealthy. He may have money in the bank to pay for these. I don't know. The DA's office said this is an approach taken in many property crime cases and helps to ensure the individual keeps their job and can pay restitution, as well as reducing the likelihood of repeat offenses. Now, how does it reduce the likelihood that he won't do this again when he's really not punished? I mean, isn't the punishment sort of the deterrence that he won't do it again? You make an example out of him? Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara wasn't too happy. He didn't mince words in his response. In a statement to local media, he criticized the decision as a betrayal of victims and a blow to public confidence. O'Hara said this case impacted at least 6 different victims and totaled over $20,000 in damages. Any frustration related to the charging decision of the Hennepin County attorney should be directed solely at her office. Basically, the police chief is saying, don't call me, call her. Call this lunatic whose job it is to prosecute criminals who's decided she's not going to. Chief O'Hara also noted the toll these decisions take on his department, the police morale. He said, our investigators are always frustrated when the cases they pour their hearts into are declined. Now think about this. You have these hardworking men and women in blue out there. Their job's hard enough as it is. They catch this guy. They put the work in. They check the surveillance video, and they have what they think is enough proof to charge him. And this lady, because she probably hates Elon Musk and probably hates Teslas, and I'm sure hates Donald Trump, she decides she's going to let him go. Going to slap him on the wrist, send him back to his job, and hope he pays restitution. And I hope he does. I hope these people get restitution. My only concern is, and having been in this situation before, years ago I had a vehicle stolen from me, and the deadbeat who stole it from me, first off, he was put on parole with the idea that he'd pay restitution. He made a couple of small payments, and then he skipped out, didn't stop paying. He was picked up only because I pushed it. I kept going back to the judge and saying, he hasn't paid me. So they pick him up, bring him back in court. The judge slaps him on the wrist again. He said he promises to pay. Never even made a payment the next time. Long story short, he rode this out for over 5 years, and eventually an attorney pulled up this obscure law that says after a certain period of time, he didn't have to pay me anymore. He never paid the restitution. And I'm afraid that's what will happen here. This guy will never pay what he owes these owners of these cars. Now, this is a pattern of this DA. This is not the first time that Ms. Moriarty has faced criticism for leniency. Since taking office in January of 2023, she has dropped rape charges due to procedural issues. She's been removed from a high-profile murder case after offering light sentences to teenage suspects, and consistently has promoted policies that critics say prioritize ideology over justice. Bingo. Ideology over justice. That kind of tells you what this judge is all about. Now, according to local press reports, Governor Tim Walz has distanced himself from Adams, confirming he's not a political appointee and works as one of over 40,000 state employees. Still, the timing of the case has raised some eyebrows, especially after the governor was recently quoted at a rally mocking Tesla stock struggles. It's like he is just giddy that Elon Musk has lost a lot of wealth because of the decline in Tesla stock. Do you see the irony in this? The left loved Tesla because they're an electric vehicle. And it's what the left thinks we all should be driving. We should be forced. And that's where Joe Biden was headed. If we had 4 more years of Biden or Kamala Harris, we all would probably be driving around in an electric vehicle. And the irony here is that, Elon Musk is supportive of Donald Trump and his administration and everything the Trump administration is doing. His livelihood, or a portion of his livelihood, depends on selling electric vehicles. But he's not trying to cram them down our throats. He's not trying to force us to buy an electric vehicle. He wants us to buy a Tesla because it's a good deal and it's a quality product. I have friends who have Teslas who love them. And these are conservative friends. These aren't the tree-hugging lefties. These are people who just like the electric vehicle and the low maintenance of it. And I've said all along, if you want to buy an electric vehicle, more power to you. I'm happy for you. I just don't want to buy one. Someday I may own one. I don't know. But I want that to be my decision and not the government, right? So back to this case. Adams, this young man, will now enter a diversion program rather than face trial, meaning there'll be no jail time, there'll be no criminal record. And this is really just part of a broader debate in Minnesota over criminal justice reform and prosecutorial discretion. I mean, you can watch the surveillance footage, and it shows him doing this. Now, we always have to say he allegedly did it, but you can see him in the video. So there's not a whole lot of alleging going on here. You can, you can go on CBS News. They posted the full DA statement. I'm not going to bore you with it because you can kind of guess what it says. But this is just another example, folks, of why we have to keep Donald Trump in office so that he can systematically appoint as many conservative federal judges as possible to get us out of this mess.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.